Yo, what's up, everybody? We are here with Sergio Rojas, and we just recorded Hearing Heaven. And that's the facts.
Yep.
That's basically the gist of it. So, see you later. Actually, we're going to listen through, and we're just going to chat and have fun and hang out, and we'll see what happens. If you guys have questions, you can put them in the comments, but we can't answer them because this isn't live, so maybe I'll come back and answer them later. All right, here we go. Yep. So, Sergio, tell everybody like where you're from, like what's going on in life. How's everything?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Bolivia, but I've been in the States for about 20 years now. And my wife and I are currently in Concord, which is a little bit north of Charlotte. And yeah, we've been there I've been in Charlotte for 10 years now.
Oh,
and we're currently serving at a church. You know, we have a 6-month-old, so learning life all over again for us and forget sleep. Well, we do get some sleep. But
yeah.
My wife is a trooper. She's usually the one up. But yeah, we're just in Charlotte. I play around in some churches, help out wherever it's needed. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get to travel with friends, which is fun.
Like here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Well, yeah, that's actually where I met you, is playing in Charlotte a couple times. And then, so obviously not anybody watching this doesn't know, but so we connected in Charlotte and just had some good times. Like immediately there was just like a bond that I felt and just a connection, you know, so got to play a couple of different times over there over the course of a couple of years, but literally since the first time we've just kind of like kept in contact.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty cool. And so I needed an electric player at church, and so I asked Sergio to come on over, and here he is. So we're hanging out for the weekend and decided to do a Here in Heaven thing. But so as far as the idea of like prophetic worship and stuff like that, like how long have you known about it, or like what kind of like introduced you to it?
Yeah.
Did you grow up with it, or like how does that work for you?
No, I didn't grow up with it. I actually got into music when I was about 15. I think that's when I was serious. And I grew up in a Spanish church. And when I first was interested, well, let me backtrack a little bit. We used to go to church, and we used to always get like to church late with my family. So we sat in the balcony.
Yeah.
And one day, just a teenage prayer was like, Lord, if you teach me how to play guitar, I'll serve you. Because I could see like the musicians. I always loved music. A few months later, my brother gave me a First Act guitar from Walmart with a tiny little
Shout
amp.
out the First Act.
So
come on.
Yep, that was how I learned how to play guitar.
That's awesome.
And he wrote down like the major and minor chords, and I went and memorized them. Like literally, it took me a day, and like I think I spent all night like just memorizing them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. So I put the guitar in the corner and forgot about it. And one day I get a phone call from the worship leader, and she says, hey, don't you play guitar? And I'm like, not really. And she's like, how would you like to, join the youth band and whatever. So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I didn't I didn't know how to play anything. I just knew chords.
Yeah.
But didn't know rhythms, didn't know progressions. I never took lessons, and so I started.
Any pedals at that point?
No, I literally went direct. I went direct to a DI box, so you
gosh.
could imagine what
nice
an
tone.
electric guitar into a DI box went.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of started picking up music, with charts, and I just stuck with it. There was times where I was so embarrassed because I didn't know, like the church I played at, they would flow a lot.
Yeah.
Because they kind of had a list of 30 songs or 40 songs that everyone just knew.
Yeah.
And they were all played in different keys. But I was the new guy who didn't know how to play guitar. And so I just remember many times like where I was just lost. And so I learned the keyboard. I would watch the left hand of the keyboard player. And I just had to determine if the note was minor or major. And if he was playing an inversion, then I was completely off. But anyways, I stuck with it, and we went from having 6 guitar players in the church to none. And so I got promoted to Sunday team.
Yeah. Real quick.
And that was worse. So we went from having a full band to sometimes guys would not show up. And there's this particular Sunday, and I was the only musician who showed up. And mind you, I didn't have music memorized, and the worship leader didn't have a set list. So we stopped. I think it was after the first song because it was so bad. But
oh no.
So from that point, because I was so embarrassed, I just went home and I would play albums and I would just try and figure them out. And so that's when my ear began to pick up stuff. So the prophetic was always there, but I was never aware. I didn't know what that was. There wasn't a name for it. So that was 16, 17 by this point, and I used to play club soccer, and I was sort of a good student, so I thought I was going to go to school for engineering. Music was never in my radar, and the Lord flipped my plans really, really fast, so I didn't get to go to school or to college. But when I was 19, I prayed about school, and I found out about fire school in Concord, North Carolina. And so I just took my guitar. By then I had gotten into the multi-effects. I had an amp because you had to have an amp, I guess. So again, I didn't know. I was running my multi-effects pedal board into an amp, a tube amp. Yeah. And somehow I guess it sounded decent. But to answer your question, when I got to fire, they would do a set list, but there was always a moment where you would feel just the room shift, and it was just like, you just had to learn to follow. But by this time, my ear was a little bit better. Yeah. So I guess with the help of worship leader and other friends, I just began to sort of feel where to go. Yep. It was frightening because I had to know, like, my mind wanted to know what we were doing. I was always like, hey, what progression's that? And sometimes the keyboard player would be like, we're just in the key of G or key of whatever. Yeah. And so it was a little bit of fear / like feel. And I had to learn to throw away the fear and just trust that I had to. I guess essentially I learned what to play by learning what not to play. If that makes any sense. Yep. You would make a mistake. It's like, oh, that's a sour note for this particular key. And then down the road, you kind of learn how to incorporate those sour notes into your playing.
A little more tastefully.
Yeah. And so with what we're doing today, like, we just hit play and we just knew we were in the key of D. Yeah. And there was a moment where I was like, where could we take this? And I felt like it was, again, another thing of feeling. I felt that I had to just kind of drop out and let you, like, start, and you started with a progression, and then I heard it. So then I started to get some ideas. But it usually, for me, it starts with a feel. And
that's that's similar to how I am as well. I'll feel it too. I think part of it is actually the practicalities of, like, just feeling music. And then, like, there's obviously the spiritual element to it, but part of it is just feeling music as well. Like, there is a flow. And that's why I think secular bands can even hit that flow, like jam bands and stuff. Like, they can hit a flow and ride the flow, like, so long. But I think it's because they understand the music and understand, like, where that music leads. Yeah. And worship music's no different, just with the added element of the spiritual realm and what the Holy Spirit's wanting. So it's and even the creativity, like, that comes with the Holy Spirit. Like, He can just drop a melody in, and that's what He wants to hear. Yeah. Or you can just most of the time it is just feeling it. Like, you just feel you're starting to recognize this is what's coming up next. Yeah. The dynamics of a song, like, you just recognize those things. And it doesn't make it any less spiritual that you just understand where the music's going. Yeah. Because it's like playing with excellence, really. It's like, it's your craft, so you need to understand your craft inside and out. And I guess I think about it kind of like how the Levites, like the ones that were they're playing before the Lord, like they were only the best of the best.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like they knew how to flow in music in their time, you know, which is totally different than the way we're doing it now. But
Yeah.
they knew how to flow in their own things, and they knew where the music was going to go, and they had their own feeling of all of that. But it didn't make it any less spiritual. Like they're still playing before the Lord, and that's how I see it. You're just giving, even when you flow in music, and people can do that in the natural, it's still giving that gift and laying that before the Lord too.
Right.
But like for myself, the whole idea of like prophetic worship in a sense, which that term is even really vague.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but I kind of learned music that way. Like my dad was the pastor and the worship leader growing up, and so he would play an upright piano. Like we didn't even have a mic stuck down in it or anything. Like it was just an upright piano, and then drums.
Yeah.
And so I started on drums, but my dad said he wouldn't give any signals like this is where we're going. A lot of times we wouldn't even know the song that he's about to go into. He would just tell us, when I bring a new song, I need you to memorize it and have it ready. So anytime he went into it, we just expected to know it. And we had to read the back of his head
Right.
to know where he was going, up or down or whatever. So that helped me a lot.
Right.
But then I remember certain times where it would be like absolute Holy Ghost like moments in the playing, and I never thought about it at the moment. I'm just like, oh, okay, God's here, you know, he was using me, whatever. Nobody was talking about prophetic worship. It was just like to us, it was just like normal worship, and
Yeah.
you just kind of like went for it.
Right.
And then eventually I learned bass and piano and stuff like that, and did the same thing. So I got it real early, but then over the course of the years, like I just stopped playing at church, you know, went off to college and started playing more like, you know, metal bands and stuff like that, and different kind of bands like that. So I started working on more the practical element of it, and still never thought about like worship as like prophetic or anything like that, you know. But it wasn't really until I finally like fully gave my life to the Lord about 21, and then shortly after that, maybe 22, 23, somewhere in there, I started thinking like, whoa, okay, music is a language. And I started realizing, I started playing for church, playing bass, and I started realizing, whoa, this flow is the same flow that I get into in my private time.
Right.
Like when I'm interceding, when I'm going after God, and all these things in my own private time in prayer, I started noticing this flow is the exact same, you know? And so it started me thinking like, okay, well, in private time, I'm just using my words.
Yeah.
But music is a language, you know? So like, what's to say that God doesn't understand what we're playing as if it is like English, you know what I mean, or like Spanish or something, you know? Like, who's to say that God doesn't actually understand exactly what we're playing? So at that point, I just started playing like the keyboard before the Lord and the acoustic and stuff like that, just whatever I had on hand, and playing that in my private time and like worship and stuff like that. But then I would like start spilling my guts, you know, before the Lord, kind of like, feels like how David always did in the Psalms, you know, he just like spilled his guts out there. And so I started doing that, and then there'd be those moments where I didn't even have words, and I just played everything I felt. But I knew that God was like fully understanding everything, you know what I mean? I was like pouring myself out, but only through music, no lyrics or melodies or anything like that usually. And so it started to kind of click on me over time, like, okay, no, music is a language, and we can use that to communicate with the Lord. Right. And if that's the case, if we can communicate with the Lord, then we can release things in the atmosphere. Yep. You know what I mean? Like if God understands that language, then maybe an atmosphere might respond to that as well. So then it started to, you know, opened this whole world of opportunity as a musician, to where now I'm not just playing regular old notes and rhythms and backing up a singer all the time, but now there's a weight and a responsibility that says, while I'm playing this, I can put weight behind it. You know what I mean? I can get a word of knowledge or a word of wisdom or prophetic word or something like that from the Lord and release that through music into the atmosphere, even though I don't have a mic. Nobody's handing me a mic to, like, you know, declare this. Where I can still declare in the atmosphere, declare healing or deliverance or whatever. And so over the course of time, like, I've had, you know, different experiences where that was the case, where I'd be playing and people would get healed, or I'd be playing and, like, this anointing would come on me, and I'd be playing and releasing it and people would get delivered, like different things like that, you know, which are really cool, really, really cool. That blows my mind anyways, that the Lord would use anybody like that. But but it kind of started to confirm the different things and those different kind of like thoughts that to me seemed a little more far out there, that because nobody was talking about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, even when I was flowing way back growing up, it's more like the musicians were flowing to support.
Right.
They're like supporting characters, not necessarily really weight carriers or like on the front lines. It's like whoever's leading the song is on the front lines and we're like there to back them up, whatever they want. And of course, there's a lot of the elements that's the case. That's our responsibility and our role. But there's those moments, dude, where a singer just backs off.
Yep.
And will, like, throw it to the band. And in those moments, like, the band has the opportunity to prophesy as if they had the mic and were just you know, going for it vocally, and release things in the atmosphere.
Yeah, that actually, now that you share that, when I first started tapping into the feels, it's just, I don't have a word for it. Like, the only thing that comes to mind is a feeling. Like, it's actually more of an invitation. And I could go a few different ways, and I just have to make decisions. And as a musician, I guess, you know, I didn't take lessons. I didn't study, you know, theory, nothing. Like, it was just all ear. But I was thinking, when you said you're sharing about how you started, actually, when my mom was going through a divorce, I was 16, I think. And I was frustrated with my playing because it was so limited. I remember going through so much stuff as a teenage guy, you know. My mom was divorcing her second husband, so my parents got divorced when I was very young. So I had all this frustration, and the only thing I knew how to do with the Lord was just play my guitar in my room, and it was usually full of tears. And I just remember feeling the presence of God playing simple chords. Yeah. And then it would frustrate me because I'm like, there's so much I want to say, and I don't know how to say it with words and with music. Yeah. But honestly, I think it was those months and years of being in my room, not like playing amazing melodies or notes or whatever, but just being vulnerable before the Lord. Yeah. Where I felt who He really was toward me. And you take that foundation and you take some years of experience just playing music, especially Christian music, which wasn't very hard, and you mix like where you got to know the Lord, and then you mix some of your little bit of knowledge with music, and it actually hits home. Like, to me, I was like, okay, this feels like what I do in my alone time. Yeah. I'm getting some of the same feelings, and sometimes I don't feel anything. Sometimes I just have to go based on head knowledge. Yeah. You know, I know we're in the key of D, so I have these notes to play with. But the other element that I was thinking of when you were talking is chemistry. When you're by yourself, you could switch keys, you could do whatever you want. But when you're playing with other people, I've learned that, like, some people you just have chemistry right away, and others you have to build into it, and you have to share. And I think when you and I met, it was a conference, so we got to play over a period of 3 days. But we hit it off really early, like, because there was things that you would play, and that was my first time playing with you, and you were MDing, you were directing us, but I felt comfortable from the get-go. Like, I knew I could play all my parts for what the music called and play it safe, but I think when we, just after run through, I was like, I feel like I could be myself.
Yeah.
And there was moments at that conference where we would go into spaces where the worship leader would back out, and it was just you playing, but I felt an invitation. As you were playing, I was like, okay, I feel like I could add to this. And sometimes I would harmonize, sometimes I would compliment, you know. And so when we did this today, it felt very much like, okay, we got to figure out where we're going. But I felt like early on that I was like, all right, this is comfortable, you know. It felt like we just had a connection just musically. And there are people, like non-musical people, that you feel that just with the way of life, the way they've been raised. And so for me, team chemistry does a huge difference when you're talking about prophetic. Because when you meet someone who knows, like, you know, they have your back, you will feel more confident to go into the unknown. And if you make a mistake, let's just call it a mistake for now, because I feel I even second guess about that, you know. Actually, I was watching a video of Victor Wooten explaining, and he's like, I don't think scales, I don't think modes, I think music, I think feel. What does the song need? What can I support? And so my role as a guitar player, a lot of times I've always supported somebody, so I have to force myself to listen to what's happening around me. And how could I support, how could I, you know, if you're playing in an upper register, sometimes I'll go up there, but I rather compliment lower or middle. And so I guess just, if I could put a word to it, is learning how to stay in my lane. Like, I don't have to be anybody else but myself, you know.
Dude, there's so much. My brain went in like a million tangents. Dude, like I think that's the best way I've ever heard it, is like, so you're talking about like feeling, like feeling the music and stuff like that, and feeling where to go, or like, dude, it's like, it literally is an invitation. Like, I've never thought of that. And it's always something difficult to actually describe or explain, unless like you just know. I've always found it difficult, but that might be that is definitely like the best way that I've heard it described. Like, it is an invitation, because I've been in plenty of times where I felt that like there could be more here. Like, if we choose it, but then like somebody shifts it and it's like, nope. You know what I mean? It's just like completely goes the opposite way. Or like the song ends and you knew that there was like that invitation for more, like right there, and that choice was made to go the other way. Or like, I've been in obviously plenty of times as well where that invitation is present, and then everybody says yes, like, yeah, we're going there. You know what I mean? And then it just like almost every single time, it just like opens up an entire new realm, and like something ends up happening like every single time that happens. But man, that's like the best way that I've heard that even described, is it's an invitation. You just feel an invitation. It's like, okay, I could go and it's like a crossroads, you know what I mean? Like, I could go this way, stay where we're at, or go this way, you know what I mean? And then you choose. Usually, like, the invitation is there, like, I don't know what's about to be on the other side of saying, like, hey, let's go there. But then once you do, like, things just start to happen. Things just start to come, and that flow usually hits.
Well, and I've noticed, too, because you music direct a lot, and I'm bringing a whole nother, topic here, but you're relying on a worship leader. Right? So you have to, first of all, not just feel what you're supposed to play, but you're following a worship leader who's also feeling the room, feeling, you know, we talk about the room a lot, but, you know, I think it all births out of your intimacy with the Lord and how you know the Lord. And there are musicians that are amazing at playing songs and coming up with parts, but you feel a different weight. you feel a different weight when a musician has communion with the Lord.
Oh yeah.
You know, they could play the same lick and it just feels different.
It's something
And I'll just share this quick story. But I was playing in Tennessee with a worship leader from Ohio, actually, I think from Jackson. And I got invited to go play, and so I met them at this massive church. And there was 2 bands. We were the ministering band, so we would normally play the flow stuff. And then there was a band that played before us, which was the house band. And I was just sitting back listening like, what the heck am I here? You know, because they're killer musicians. The guitar player is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I literally said, why am I here? You know? Mm-hmm. Then I just kind of threw that thought away. And when we were playing the last night, you know, we're just ministering, and I'm getting to know the worship leader. I didn't really play with him much, but we just gelled. And I get a tap on my shoulder, and it was the guitar player that was in the house band. And he says, dude, I had to come up here and tell you, but when you play, it is so anointed. And I just couldn't stand but like sit back there and just weep. And I was like, when you play these simple notes, I was feeling the presence of God. And then the Lord said, that's why you're here. It's not about the flashy, which is fun. Like there's amazing musicians I know in church, but that's why I said you have to learn how to stay in your lane and not be afraid to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because the Lord sometimes is not impressed by what we can bring. He's really just like, it's all about here, you know.
Dude, that's the other thing that you hit too. Like was, like there was a couple of things that you hit. But being yourself is massive. Mm-hmm. Like if you're trying to be somebody else, I can't remember not one time where I found myself trying to be like somebody else and God actually put his hand on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're David trying to fit in Saul's armor, and it's not going to work. It just doesn't function correctly. And usually it ends in like nothing but frustration and stress. Yeah. Ultimately. So you have to be real with him, and it's like, and it can be a super vulnerable spot. It can put you in a real vulnerable spot to where you have to like dig deep in yourself and let everything out. In a sense, like you have to like bust down the walls in yourself and just be vulnerable before the Lord. Yeah. With your instrument, like in those moments. Because if you're trying to impress, if you're trying to be somebody else, he doesn't put his hand on it. You know what I mean? Like it might sound cool, and people might even be like, "Wow, that was powerful," you know, like whatever. But that'll be the extent of it, because the Lord will be like, "Yeah, I wasn't that into it." You know what I mean? Like you did good, you know, as my kid, but like, you know, it could have been something else. Yeah, could have released something else. But he requires like that genuine authenticity of like who we are. Yeah. And even with that, another thing you mentioned was like kind of like that unity, like gelling with the band, and like and kind of like vibing with them in a sense. But there's a difference when not everybody's on that same page. You can generally feel it. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can drag people so far, but along with you, but at some point, like, you can feel the weight down. But then on the flip side, when everybody's all together, like being authentic, like not having to worry about being somebody else or impressing, and everybody's in the same mindset of like, yeah, we can be vulnerable before the Lord and stuff like that. Dude, you feel that unity, and things happen so much easier. Like you hit flows easier, you hear from the Lord easier. It's just like kind of crazy. But I mean, it makes sense, because even the day of Pentecost, they were all in one accord. You know what I mean? They were all in unity together, going after the same thing. And so, even like you said, even outside of music, when you find somebody that's like that, like there's a connection that just happens naturally, and it's not forced. It's just like, it's just real natural. Yeah. And but it's the same thing through music. Like when that unity's there, that common denominator, it even allows people to let their hair down and be like, oh, I can be myself. Like
Yeah.
I can play off of them. I don't have to be so tensed and play exactly what, exactly what the song does. I can be a little more free and let out who I am as a musician.
Yeah.
Which is like, I'm all about that. I don't want to sound like anybody else at all, because if I try to sound like somebody else, there's already one of those people, and God likes what they're doing.
Yeah.
But if he just wants me to be me,
Yeah.
and then when and he wants you to be you, but then when me and you get in a room, we'll have a sound, because we have that common denominator, and we have that common pursuit and that unity, that when me and you get in a room, even just us, there's a sound that's just different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's really cool. But that point is really good too. You genuinely have to just be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when God puts his hand on it. Even if in private time, even if being yourself means that you just go off and tell God how angry you are.
Yeah.
If you're just being real about it, and you're not trying to hide things from him, he honors that, and then he'll start to move with that. Or if you're heartbroken or whatever, there's just wherever you're at, if you're being honest about it and vulnerable with him, that's when he puts his hand on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to be somebody else, you're trying to impress, or you're trying to be fake, he doesn't have any part of it. I think it's part of him being the way, the truth, and the life.
Yeah.
If it's not true, genuinely truth, he won't put his stamp of blessing on it, basically. You know what I mean? He's not. And it's the same with music. If it's not being true to who we are, and what he's made us to be, then he doesn't like to put his stamp of approval on it.
Right.
It's
a slap in the face to look at your creator and say, I don't like who you made me to be. I want to be like that person. That's saying,
pretty huge.
That's saying, Lord, you're not wise enough to know what I should be.
Yeah.
So part of that for me is, your strengths as a musician, but knowing your limitations. I think the Lord delights when we come to him with limitations.
Yeah.
Because that's when he says, well, I can do all things. There's nothing impossible for the Lord. And God transcends through everything, through time, through everything. But that's what made David, a man after God's own heart, is when you read the Psalms, you think this guy is bipolar.
Yeah.
But he's literally spilling his guts, and then he as he's unveiling what he feels, then he remembers to remind himself, but I will praise the Lord, but I will trust in him. He's not saying I do try, he says I will.
Yeah.
So it's almost like in our brokenness and in our moments of weakness, it's almost like the Lord gives you a glimpse of but do you remember who I am? And then you it's almost like when you're down on the ground so beat, and somebody just lifts your head or just helps you get up. And for music, it's literally, to me, because I didn't consider myself a musician for a long time, I kind of just figured out how to play, and it was in the presence of God. So stepping into that prophetic or invitation was a little easier. But to this day, there's still risk involved. Because I also am a believer that invitation doesn't mean right or wrong. It just means you have different avenues and different doors you can pick.
Yeah.
Some take you another place, some take you another, and as long as your heart is to serve everyone around you and to know your place, you're always going to land where you're supposed to be. Now, if your place is to, take the glory or take the show or whatever, then you know where that lands. And you can impress some people, but ultimately the fruit that remains isn't going to be lasting to me.
True.
I don't think so, but
yeah. Dang. That's some good stuff. So, getting distracted
Yeah, no,
by all this synth action. Can't help it.
Yeah, that was great.
I like synth, but yeah, that's good stuff. So lately, actually, I've been kind of excited because even the band that I've been playing with at my church, we've been really getting to that place of gelling more, and really everybody understands the assignment in a sense. And I've encouraged them, just like, yo, be yourself, like, create. There's no pressure. We're just going after the Lord and honoring Him, and the rest of it, just, whatever happens. But in the last couple months, especially, I've really felt this like unity with the band, that everybody is fully like being themselves, and we've been hitting some moments that are super awesome. And we haven't had, a lot of the times so far, it's been more vocally driven.
Okay.
But I've been seeing more now that the band is locking like this, and really starting to even communicate their music, and everybody's starting to sense the same things in the spirit. I get to MD less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everybody's feeling it and they just go for it in that direction. But there's starting to be more of these prophetic moments.
Yeah.
Where the band takes it and then things are actually happening. Where it's not just like a music section where the band takes it and we're just jamming out for the sake of jamming out to get to the next part.
Yeah.
But more of like the ball gets thrown to the band and the band like takes it home. You know what I mean? Like all the way to the end zone or to the bucket or whichever game you choose to play. But like the ball gets thrown to the band and the band understands the assignment of like, okay, we're not just playing now. Like this is our opportunity to really release something into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And even when there's not even like shredding lead solo or a synth or anything like that going on, like we're just playing chords and going after it, dude, you can feel when everybody's heart is just like playing from their instruments, and it's the difference of like from playing here, like with just your mind and your like mental capacity, and then start to play from like that deeper spot.
Yeah. You
can feel it when everybody starts to play from that deeper spot, because it really does feel like that all those rivers are just coming together. You know what I mean? Like every person's river that's flowing out of their belly that just comes together to create this torrent, basically. Yeah. And it's really, really, honestly amazing, and it's supernatural to even see and witness in the first place. But yeah, we've been having those moments, so I've been really excited, and I think those moments are about to start happening more in this next season. So it's about to be really, really cool. So I'm interested to see how that pans out, because sometimes too it's interesting because the music will already be up, we'll be going for it, and then somebody throws it to the band. Yeah. And it's up, and so we just drive it and go to town, level 10. But then there's times where it comes down and it's real more ambient, you know? And when I've had the opportunities to lead, sometimes I'll bring it down and I'll let it chill there, and I'll let the band know, like, yo, you can take this, you know? And usually those are the moments where the singers get real antsy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and even the room can feel a little antsy. Yeah. But I've been kind of enjoying throwing it to the band and letting the band have their moment to prophesy, and give them the space to do that, just like a singer would exhort the room or whatever. And then I'll just tell the room, like, yo, lift up your own voices. Yeah. And then a few times, honestly, I've just said, like, if you're waiting on us to do something, like, this is what we're doing right now, you know? Or if you're waiting on us to go to the next thing, like, this is the next thing. This is what we're doing right now. So those, sometimes you do have to actually teach and shape the culture to know what to do in those moments, because they can be a little awkward, been the down moments.
Mm-hmm.
But when the band starts to hit that flow,
Mm-hmm.
the whole room feels it. You know what I mean? Like it's tangible in the room, and things just start to happen.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's such a supernatural thing that an entire room would be in unity like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I think about prophetic worship, I guess that's what I think about. I think about giving space for the musicians to carry the weight that they were always meant to carry,
Yeah.
and giving musicians the chance to play and essentially speak
Mm-hmm.
before the Lord in a corporate setting. So that's generally what I think about when I think about it. But I'm trying to give more opportunities now, especially that our band is kind of like locking real good. Oh, that's almost done. Now that our band's locking real good, I'm giving more opportunities
Mm-hmm.
for them to just take it.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting. And even some of my players that are more shy
Mm-hmm.
and like personality wise very reserved
Yeah.
are starting to like come out and find that they can say things through music that they would never say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can release things and even that we wouldn't even know like what they're saying exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But they're able to like pour themselves out through music in a way that they could never say
Yeah.
or would say vocally. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's actually really cool to see them come out of their shell. It's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we've hit some like really, really good stuff. Dude, I'm gonna have to like sit and think about that, just the invitation thing.
Yeah.
That was huge. I've never heard it explained like that. And I've always struggled to explain that part of it. It's just like, well, you just feel it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's
And
like, feel what?
That's
You
a
feel
yeah,
many
exactly.
things.
What a terrible explanation. You
Yeah.
just feel it. Like what? Well, I don't feel it. So
Yeah.
tell me, like, how do you feel it?
Right.
Dude, it's just an invitation, and it's just like, come over here if you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You don't have to.
Yeah.
But come on over here, and it's dude, that's amazing. I'm gonna be thinking on that.
Yeah. I struggle with language, putting language to it. Especially when, you have your church group and
Mm-hmm.
musicians that you do life with, but you also go out on the road with people, and then you also get invitations to play with people you've never played with before.
Mm-hmm.
And I have experienced more of those invitations when I learned to honor those around me and the people that are placed above me.
Yeah.
For example, for me has been a worship leader, right? Because they're kind of head spearing things. I mean, we all are, but they're the ones with the words. They're the ones trying to carry.
Yep.
So the more I feel like I come with the mindset of, it's not about me, it's not about what I can play, it's not about who I can impress, none of that. It's just about me knowing my role in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And in honoring those around me, it's almost like automatically creates more of a bond. You're become like of the same mind, common unity,
Yeah.
And I've felt more of that invitation when there is that in the room, when there is like, at least the band is like, we all get along, or we at least like each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I have felt the only language that comes to mind is an invitation,
Mm-hmm.
And the more you make it, I guess the more you make it, the more you take weight off of somebody by just doing your duty as a bass player, drummer, whatever your role
Mm-hmm.
is, the more free they're going to be to take on those invitations. Because
Definitely.
there's a difference in getting invited with kindness and love to somebody else's house, and it's different when someone says, well, I guess you can come if you want.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to go there. I want to go when the person says, dude, I would love for you to come here.
Yeah.
And the Lord is very much like that,
Mm.
He's very much, he is the way, he prepares a way.
Yeah.
He is the truth, and he is the life. Like, to me, that sounds like a journey,
Yeah.
You know, you find your way, you find truth, and you find life. It's one person, but to me that sounds like a journey, you know. So
Yeah, dude, no doubt. Even in that, there's the element of like the practical, like you want to be a solid player.
yeah, exactly. You have to.
Because like there's so much, like you need everybody to be confident in what you're doing. You know what I mean? If you're like going off the rails and like, or you just are not gonna be able to play your parts, people are not gonna be comfortable to flow. And expect you to keep up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to be a solid player, at least enough to where they can they know they can depend on you, so they don't have to think about you out of the back of their mind.
Right.
Or the band has to think about, like, you know, keep dragging you along. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Practically. So there is even that practical element of gelling with the band, in the sense that like you can keep up with the band and they can all keep up with you.
Yeah.
And knowing your role, to where there are the practical elements of, like, if I was doing like a lead thing on the synth, but then you started ripping on guitar,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to mesh well. We're going to step on each other's toes. So like I need to come down and play lower, or just stop playing so you can take over, or vice versa. You know what I mean? So like there's those elements too. Because in that sense, that's like two people prophesying at once.
Right.
Two people saying something real loud all at one time. It just sounds like an argument.
Well, it's like, I mean, you're right. You know, I think that's why I think of honoring is if you come into a setting, whether it is a church service, a recording, or whatever, and they all have different elements. So let's just stick to church setting for a bit. But if I come unprepared, or I didn't even know the songs or listen to the songs, to me that's dishonoring to whoever invited me, you know, and I wouldn't expect anything else. And like, hey dude, thanks, have a good day, you can go back home, you know.
Yeah.
But like, if I don't do my homework ahead of time to honor and respect not just the worship leader but the band, if I don't play my part, if I don't stay in my lane, then you're always gonna have a missing link.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, there's no doubt.
So, yep.
Sweet. Well, I think we'll wrap it up with that. But what's the date today? 11/13/21. So that'll be what the Here in Heaven is. 11/13/21. Go check it out. We'll post a video somewhere here on on the YouTube's world.
The YouTubes.
Yeah, and obviously any platform will have streaming for it, but you will not want to miss it. And thanks, dude, for doing all that. That's amazing.
Thanks for having me, dude.
All right, well, hey, all you peoples watching this, be blessed and stuff. All right, love you guys. Bye.